Hello and welcome to the Bulletin with Jerome Halligan. I am, in the grand scheme of things, Jerome Halligan. I am not by any means a sports expert. I couldn't tell you what makes a good football player any more than I can explain to you what makes a great quiche Lorraine, though I think it has something to do with the combination of bacon, onions, cream, and a woman named Lorraine. But I do follow politics, and one thing I can tell is when a U.S. Senator just might suck ass. Which brings me to Tommy Tuberville, freshman senator from Alabama. He's been in the news a lot lately, and not once because of his gigantic ears, which strikes me as a missed opportunity. Now, as is well known, before entering the U.S. Senate, Tuberville was the head football coach at Auburn University from 1999 to 2008, which we all know qualifies him to serve in one of the most powerful positions in the U.S. government. If anything, he's overqualified, especially on those occasions where the U.S. Senate really needs to figure out if it wants to run or pass. And Tuberville certainly doesn't play down his storied history in college sports. If anything, it's kind of like most of his identity. His official webpage at tuberville.senate.gov refers to him in huge bold letters as Coach Tommy Tuberville. His fellow senators even refer to him as Coach. Well, that just makes me jealous. If it's one thing I've always wanted from my state representative, it's the ability to call them Coach. Now, one reason Coach has been in the news, and perhaps for simplicity's sake we'll call this Item 1, is that he may not actually live in Alabama, although that's the state he represents. According to a Washington Post report, it seems Tuberville might actually reside in Santa Rosa, Florida, where he owns a $3 million beach house in which the Post contends he spends most of his time when he's not in Washington. Now, his staff has stated that his Florida home is a vacation home, and he actually lives in Auburn. But that Florida home is in the names of Tuberville's wife and son, not Tuberville himself. In fact, Tuberville currently owns no property in Alabama as he sold his last remaining property there in July. And in case you're curious, yes, there are residency requirements for members of Congress. Namely, they need to live in the state which they represent. On to Item 2. As Tuberville's official bio points out, after 2 full lead paragraphs about his history as a coach and broadcaster, he's the son of a World War II veteran who was the recipient of 5 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart, and Coach himself passionately supports the nation's law enforcement and military. Well, that's kind of at issue at the moment, actually, because as you may or may not have heard, Coach is holding up single-handedly all Senate-approved military promotions over a change he wants to see to military rules. Specifically, the Pentagon this year unveiled a policy that offers the reimbursement of travel expenses and up to 21 days leave for any military personnel who may serve in a state that does not legally allow abortions or reproductive care like fertility treatments, in order for them to go to a state that does allow those things. Tuberville, a staunch abortion opponent, opposes the policy and wants it changed. He argues that if the Pentagon wants to change a policy in this extreme a manner, it needs to go through Congress, putting the change in a bill and bringing it before lawmakers for a vote. The military has said the policy stays, and so Coach made good on a bold decision he had threatened months earlier. What, to run on 3rd and 15? No, even bolder than that. He blocked all military promotions coming through the Senate until the military alters its reproductive care policy. And because of the way the arcane rules of the U.S. Senate work, yes, one senator really can block all military promotions himself. So what we have here is one of those familiar one-coach blockade type situations.
I'm holding the DOD nominations because the Secretary of Defense is trying to push through a massive expansion of taxpayer-subsidized abortions without going through this body, without going through Congress. Secretary Austin's new abortion policy is immoral and arguably illegal.
You heard the man. It's immoral. You can't do this. It's immoral. I'm a victim of circumstance. Now, keep in mind, the policy in question does not fund abortions. Defense Department facilities can only perform abortions when the life of the mother is at risk or in cases of rape or incest. And according to PBS NewsHour, those instances have been extremely rare. There were just 91 abortions performed in U.S. military facilities between 2016 and 2021. But none of that seems to matter to Coach. He's sticking to his guns. Once news of his gambit broke, Tuberville dug in his heels, adamant that he would not be the one to back down.
The solution is take the policy, go back the way it was, and then send us a bill and let everybody vote on it. I mean, it's that simple. But it's not a one-way street here. There's 2 sides to this. So let's work this out. let's let the American people, their representatives, vote on what they're trying to do with this bill that they changed with a memo.
Is there any middle ground between your position and what?
No middle ground. I mean, the middle ground is move it back and let's vote on it then.
But military leadership, for its part, also has not backed down. Here's Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin.
1 in 5 of my troops, our troops, are women. They don't get a chance to pick where they're assigned. They're serving their country. They're sacrificing each and every day. And they deserve, in my view, and in the view of our leadership, they deserve to have access to non-covered reproductive health care.
So it seemed there was a true stalemate at hand, though pressure has built on Tuberville over time, as Austin and other military leaders have claimed his blockade is harming our national security.
This is a national security issue. It's a readiness issue, and we shouldn't kid ourselves. And I think any member of the Senate Armed Services Committee knows that.
And then something seemed to change. Tuberville's reasoning behind the blockade shifted somehow. All of a sudden, it wasn't just about abortion or reproductive care soldiers might receive. It was about, wait for it, that's right, wokeness.
The problem we're having right now with our military is they can't recruit. We're behind in the Air Force and the Navy, Army. They're way behind in recruiting. Nobody wants to join the military because of all these woke policies that Secretary Austin and Joe Biden is putting in place. We allot enough money to run a great military, but we don't need to get into these woke policies and run it in the ground like they've done every other institution, like the DOJ, the FBI, our education system. That's exactly what they're trying to do.
Tuberville is apparently sweeping abortion under this wokeness umbrella. But then he goes even further than that, zeroing in on the wokeness and not so much the abortion.
There's no second place in war, okay? We have to have the best. And right now, we are so woke in the military, we're losing recruits right and left. Secretary Del Toro of the Navy, he needs to get to building ships. He needs to get to recruiting, and he needs to get wokeness out of our Navy. We've got people doing poems on aircraft carriers over the loudspeaker. It is absolutely insane of the direction that we're headed in our military, and we're headed downhill, not uphill.
Poems over the loudspeaker? Next, you'll tell me we're not beating up gay soldiers in the men's room anymore. This is why America is weak in the world's eyes. Too little beating up homos and too much girly poetry. Tuberville not only objects to the general wokeness in the government and specifically in the military, but he's apparently opposed to individual military personnel getting their promotions because they're too woke themselves.
But who potentially is just, over the top on the woke meter and not really qualified to be in this position of a nominee for a top position in the Pentagon?
Well, now with this opportunity of us sitting back and looking at this for 6-7 months, we vetted every one of them, all 300 of them. I wouldn't start with just one. There is a huge percentage of the people that they want to elevate to another star, possibly to even a 4-star. By the way, we've already got 44. That's way too many as it is. But there's a lot of them that all they want to do is
check
teach.
Boxes?
Yeah, check boxes. Talk about DEI. Everything is about equity.
As you can see, we've wandered pretty far from abortion here. Now Tuberville's issue is that these specific nominees are too woke, and not only that, but there are too many of them. Take it from military expert Tommy Tuberville, who served valiantly in our military in the year, let me check here, never. He's never served. But he did call a blitz on opposing offenses, which is basically the same thing. Anyway, what do I know? Maybe he's right. Maybe there are too many 4-star generals in the military. I honestly have no idea. But what does that have to do with abortion? So that's item 2. Item 3, good old January 6th. Now, as a little reminder, Koch is one of 8 senators who voted to overturn the election results. This is after the attack on the Capitol, mind you. Tuberville, among others, said, after fleeing the angry mob who were ready to murder his fellow congressmen and women, yes, we should throw out the free and fair election results in Arizona and Pennsylvania and hand the election in those states to Donald Trump. Some of those 8 senators only voted to overturn the results in one of those 2 states. Tuberville voted to do so in both. Maybe he really admired the way the rioters penetrated the Capitol's defensive line. See what I did there? That's a little football-related humor for you. Coach is also the guy who received this phone message from Rudy Giuliani, who actually called Senator Mike Lee of Utah thinking Lee was Tuberville. It's a long story, but suffice it to say Giuliani is a huge fuck-up, and he called the wrong guy, saying in part this.
So if you could object to every state, and along with a congressman get a hearing for every state, I know we would delay you a lot, but it would give us the opportunity to get the legislators who are very, very close to pulling their votes, particularly after what McConnell did today. It angered them because they have written letters asking that you guys adjourn and send them back the questionable ones, and they'll fix them up.
So with that in the background, let me introduce you to the odd, cloudy story of how Coach allegedly attended a meeting at the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. on January 5th, 2021, which is, in case your skills with a calendar are lacking, exactly one day before the Capitol attack. It starts like this. Charles W. Herbster, whose name makes him sound like the world's least cool herb, and who was then the Trump-appointed national chairman of the Agriculture and Rural Advisory Committee, posted on Facebook at 8:33 p.m. on the evening of January 5th that he was, quote, in the private residence of the president at Trump International with the following patriots. And then there was a list of who was in attendance, and on that list is one Tommy Tuberville. Now, it should be noted that the post in question originally stated that the meeting was held at the White House, but was then edited to change the location to Trump National Hotel. This is also odd, and a sufficient explanation has thus far not been forthcoming. I guess Herbster could have mistaken the White House for Trump National Hotel while standing in the hotel, but I find that hard to believe myself. Anyway, Tuberville initially said through a spokeswoman that, quote, the senator did not attend a meeting with the people you list, end quote, which amounted to Trump's sons, Giuliani, and Adam Piper, then the director of the Republican Attorney General's Association, an organization which played a not insignificant role in the goings-on around January 6th itself. Nor did he, the spokeswoman continued, meaning Tuberville, meet with Donald Trump. But at 10:27 p.m. that same night, Daniel Beck, a QAnon follower from Idaho, posted that he spent that evening with Tuberville, Donald Trump Jr., his girlfriend Kimberly Guilfoyle, Michael Lindell, advisor to Trump Peter Navarro, and Giuliani. In his post, he wrote, quote, we talked about the elections, illegal votes, court cases, the republic's status, what to expect on the Hill tomorrow, end quote. And then, in all caps, Trump will retain the presidency, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Okay. Good for Daniel Beck. Something, something, the storm, something, something. But then photos surfaced on Instagram apparently showing Tuberville in the lobby of Trump International on January 5th. The same user who posted the Tuberville photo also posted photos of Michael Flynn and Donald Trump Jr. apparently at the hotel. In the wake of this mounting evidence of his presence at Trump National Hotel on the 5th, Tuberville then told reporters, you know what, I was actually there after all, but it was for a fundraiser, not a meeting, and anyway, I didn't stay long. Huh. So if there was no meeting and nothing of consequence happened, why lie about being there the first time around? I really don't like to wade in the swamps of conspiracy theories, but let's just say something feels off here. Then, more recently, Tuberville made me scratch my head even harder. At this point, it's starting to bleed up there. In the coup de grace, pun intended, which we'll call item 4, Tuberville has lately had some mind-numbing things to say about white nationalism, specifically white nationalists in our military.
Do you believe they should allow white nationalists in the military?
Well, they call them that. I call them Americans.
Jesus. Then, unbelievably but totally believably, he doubled down.
White nationalist is just another word that they want to use other than racism. I'm totally against anything to do with racism. But the thing about being a white nationalist is just a cover word for the Democrats now, where they can use it to try to make people mad across the country, identity politics. I'm totally against that.
But just to be clear, you agree that white nationalists should not be serving in the U.S. military. Is that what you're saying?
If people think that a white nationalist is a racist, I agree with that. I agree they should.
A white nationalist is someone who believes that the white race is superior to other races.
Well, that's some people's opinion. And I don't think,
That's
I mean,
not
a lot.
opinion.
Pardon?
What's your opinion?
My opinion of a white nationalist, if somebody wants to call him white nationalist, to me is an American.
And not just once.
Listen, I'm totally against racism. And if the Democrats want to say that white nationalists are racist, I'm totally against that too.
But that's not a Democratic definition. The definition of a white nationalist
Well,
is
that's your
someone...
definition. My definition is
the
racism
definition.
bad.
So that's a lot of racism and willful blindness to racism to take in. But here's the thing. As dumbfoundingly racist as all this sounds, I think there's more going on. I'm not saying Tommy Tuberville isn't racist. He may well be. He did say this, after all.
They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. Bullshit!
But I think there's more going on here. I don't think it's necessarily that Tuberville is inherently racist. I think it's that he's inherently super dumb. To my point, this is the man who got the branches of the U.S. government wrong, not long after being sworn in as a U.S. senator.
Listen to what the former college football coach said when asked if he thought the two parties could find a way to work together in Congress.
You know, our government wasn't set up for one group to have all three of branches of government. It wasn't set up that way. Or three branches, you know, the House, the Senate, and the executive.
Yes, he's serving right now in the United States Senate, is actively playing a huge role in that job, mind you, holding up military promotions, as previously discussed. And he thought the three branches of government, one in which he serves in, are the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Let that sink in. Now go long! Just wanted to get your mind off how depressing this all is with a little more football humor. I'm assuming it didn't work. What I'm saying is, I think it's entirely possible that Coach thinks white nationalist means something it doesn't. Like, say, a white person who just really loves his country. That sounds absurd and like I'm letting him off the hook. But first of all, I'm not and have no desire to. And two, I'm being serious. I think it's quite possible that one of the most powerful men in the country, who is currently wielding that power quite publicly and meaningfully, is not aware of the meaning of the term white nationalist. I don't just think it's possible. I think it's likely. Just listen to his responses to the questions posed to him in those clips I just played, and I think you might begin to agree with me. And if you don't, hey, that's fine too. I mean, look, he's either a horrible racist or a giant dummy, or both. It doesn't really break his way no matter how you look at it. It's a game of inches, after all. It's not. I just wanted to throw that in somewhere. So that's all I have on Tommy Tuberville, thank Christ, and that's our show for today. Remember to like and subscribe and everything like that. I leave you today with one of this show's favorites, Fox News' Jesse Waters, as he teases a segment I only wish I saw.
So is the government controlling the weather with laser beams?
See you next time, everybody.